Imagine waking up tomorrow, looking into your bathroom mirror, and instead of your own bleary reflection, seeing next Tuesday's news headlines etched across your pupils in Helvetica bold. Your dog runs away, your favorite sandwich shop closes, and somehow, you're wearing socks with sandals at a funeral. Welcome to the absolute existential nightmare that is seeing the future, but being utterly powerless to change it. This is What If Horizons, your trusted one-way ticket to theoretical chaos, where today we wade into the murky, preordained waters of precognition without power. Suppose humanity developed the ability to perceive future events, not just in dreams or vague prophetic riddles, but through clear, unfiltered glimpses. Televised political disasters, financial crashes, celebrity meltdowns, your own dinner conversation next week about how dry the chicken was. The kicker? No matter how horrific or hopeful these visions are, we can't interfere. You see your boss falling off a Segway in a board meeting? Laugh all you want, it'll happen anyway. You see yourself losing your job? Better rehearse that stunned face, because resistance is, as they say, futile. It's the ultimate curse wrapped in a pseudo-blessing, knowing exactly what's coming and having to show up anyway. Imagine society trying to function when everyone is stuck in this passive viewing mode. Suddenly, horoscopes go out of business, but therapy apps triple their subscriptions. The stock market? Forget analysis, just stream next month's numbers and weep. Politics? Already depressing enough in real time. Now you have to endure reruns of future disasters with the added joy of impotence. If that sounds bleak, it gets worse. We would finally kill surprise, spontaneity, and the beautiful idiocy of human choice. Weddings would be planned knowing precisely when the divorce papers are signed. Parents would cradle their babies knowing the exact date they'll grow up and move to a tax haven. Every moment of hope becomes tinged with melancholy. Every second of success feels preemptively nostalgic. And in a cruel twist of irony, even our emotional responses might preload themselves, watching a loved one pass, knowing it was scheduled, rehearsed, inevitable. The world becomes a scripted drama where the audience and the actors are one and the same, muttering lines they've already memorized and pretending it still matters. But let's not despair too quickly. After all, this is humanity we're talking about, the species that made TikTok famous and still believes in juice cleanses. We would absolutely try to exploit this clairvoyant conundrum for personal gain. Influencers would post future trends before they hit, claiming psychic aesthetics. Insurance companies would find ways to deny your claim because they know you'll crash next week. And tech bros? Don't even ask. There'd be 14 apps in beta before lunch that claim to ethically monetize your future visions via blockchain. Welcome to our reality, folks. Strap in as we unravel what life looks like when the curtain is pulled back, the future is on autoplay, and free will is nothing more than a nostalgic bedtime story. Let's assume this future-seeing phenomenon wasn't confined to a few chosen oracles meditating in temples or overdosing on ayahuasca in Peruvian retreats. No, in this dystopic delight, everyone gets to give. A toddler knows she'll drop her ice cream cone at exactly 3:47 p.m., cries preemptively, and ruins the moment anyway. A teenager sees himself failing algebra next month and doesn't study, not out of defiance, but out of resigned inevitability. Every citizen becomes a passive observer in their own life, watching time unfold like a Netflix show they've already binged. And here lies the first great philosophical sinkhole. What happens to motivation? Why get up in the morning if you already know what the day will bring, and more importantly, that nothing you do can alter the plot? Ambition, creativity, even anxiety, all of them rely on uncertainty. Take that away, and what do you have? A planet full of people who feel like underpaid extras in a Truman Show. Corporate slogans change from just do it to just watch it. Educational systems crumble because there's no longer any need to learn. Everyone already knows what questions will be on the test, and the teachers already know who's going to cheat. The Olympics turn into ceremonial reenactments of predetermined wins, where athletes merely show up to mine the motions of glory. Even award shows become pointless, with actors tearfully accepting trophies for performances they already knew would be snubbed or celebrated months in advance. This illusion of progress collapses faster than a blockchain startup during a market dip. Yet strangely, crime still exists, not because people want to break the law, but because they've seen themselves do it and figure, why not play along? The legal system mutates into a tragic farce where judges sentence defendants who nod politely, already knowing their fate, while lawyers draft arguments they know fail, just to maintain the theatrical illusion of justice. And religion? That gets especially spicy. Faith traditionally hinges on the unknown, a divine plan, mysteries of existence, the sacred art of trusting without seeing. Now, everyone sees. Churches close shop, temples shutter their doors, and atheists wander the streets in existential crisis because even their lack of belief feels pre-written. The line between destiny and despair blurs like cheap mascara in a rainstorm. Some try to rebel, of course, the punk movement of precognition. They attempt to behave differently than they foresee, just to feel alive. But inevitably, their rebellion was also part of the vision. A guy sees himself dyeing his hair green, so he shaves it all off, only to find a wig in the mail with a note. "You'll wear this to the protest." Free will becomes a cat toy dangled just out of reach by the cosmic hand of inevitability. Some philosophers call it the death of choice. Others call it Tuesday. But perhaps the most insidious effect is cultural. Art withers because art thrives on surprise, on discovery, on unpredictability. Painters know what they'll paint. Writers know their endings. Comedians bomb because the audience already knows the punchlines. Tragedy loses its sting. Joy loses its spontaneity. Even love, that chaotic, beautiful train wreck of emotion, becomes procedural. You know when the butterflies begin, when they end, and the exact day your partner will leave you for someone with more emotionally intelligent biceps. Romance novels are reduced to technical manuals. First dates are more like final rehearsals. And that total loss of wonder might be the most heartbreaking outcome of all. But fear not, because coming up next, we'll explore how humans adapt like cockroaches with a TikTok account and why some people start using their visions of the future not to change outcomes, but to gain attention, fame, and even revenge. Spoiler, yes, there are influencers involved. And yes, they are more unbearable than ever. Imagine a world where influencers no longer guess what content will go viral. They already know. And more disturbingly, they know it months in advance. The result? A digital arms race of preemptive virality, where every creator is simply reenacting a post they've already foreseen to be successful, like actors in a bad soap opera, reading a script they've grown to despise. The spontaneity of creativity is replaced by a sense of hollow duty. TikTok dances choreographed before the song is even released. YouTubers uploading apology videos they haven't filmed yet because they already saw themselves screw up. Fame is no longer earned, it's scheduled. And naturally, with this kind of psychic certainty, the revenge economy flourishes. Why settle for being hurt when you can spend years rehearsing your reaction to the exact moment someone betrays you? Relationships degrade into pre-acted soap operas. A husband sees in his vision that his wife will leave him in 2032, so he begins passive-aggressively preparing revenge dinners as early as 2026. Petty wars stretch out like theatrical performances. Everyone's aware of who will insult whom, who will block whom, who will eventually subtweet whom, and yet they do it all anyway, like cursed actors on a cosmic stage. But here's the kicker. Even with all this future knowledge, no one can change a thing. Not even a sneeze can be stifled. Every cough, every parking ticket, every disastrous haircut, foreseen and suffered regardless. And this introduces a terrifying concept, predictive helplessness. We humans, stubborn optimists that we are, like to believe that knowledge equals power. But what happens when knowledge only confirms your powerlessness? When you can see the train wreck and know you can't change tracks. Therapists start treating a new psychological condition called temporal defeatism, a debilitating blend of anxiety and futility where patients moan, "I saw myself crying in this chair 3 weeks ago." The therapist sighs, already knowing they'll say, "Yes, I know. You told me last week." Even medicine adapts strangely. Doctors no longer diagnose based on symptoms. They just ask you what future visions you had. "Ah, you see yourself with a limp in August 2028. That'll be the knee. Here's a brochure." Prognosis becomes prophecy. Insurance companies thrive in this new paradigm. Premiums are no longer based on risk, but on inevitability. "Oh, you'll crash your car in May? Great, we'll raise your rate in April." It's all very efficient and deeply dystopian. Some people try to profit off their visions. There's a brief spike in vision consultants, people who help you interpret and monetize your own inevitable fate. "Oh, you see yourself having coffee in Paris next June? Great, book the flight now. Rent your moment to sponsors. Tag the location. Why suffer fate when you can monetize it?" Entire industries spring up to help people lean into their future. One startup, Preview, builds a whole platform where users share their visions like they're movie trailers. Others subscribe, hoping to find inspiration, romance, or just a preview of next month's memes. It's the end of privacy, spontaneity, and possibly comedy. But strangely, there's a philosophical movement pushing back. A strange subculture called blindfolded begins to emerge. These are people who deliberately block or ignore their visions. They wear mental blinders, take vision-scrambling drugs, or even seek out tech design to distort their personal precognition. Their motto? Better uncertain than unfree. It's rebellion by ignorance, a bold new stupidity, weaponized in the name of autonomy. In a world where the script is fixed, the only real rebellion is not knowing your lines. Next, we'll go deeper into blindfolded movement, how they operate, why they're considered dangerous, and whether pretending not to know your fate is really just another way of submitting to it.
And yes, we'll finally meet the guy who tried to punch his future in the face.
They call themselves the Blindfolded, and no, they're not a performance art collective or some rogue meditation cult, led by a guy who looks like he sells crystals at Burning Man. They're a movement, possibly the last real one left, and their mission is simple: don't look. While the rest of society is addicted to future visions like caffeine-laced doom scrolling, the Blindfolded resist. They shun the premonition feeds. They refuse to engage with predictive media. Some go as far as wearing literal blindfolds during sleep, hoping to disrupt the visual component of their forecasts. Others fry their predictive synapses with sensory overload or neurological jamming implants that loop random nonsense through their visual cortex. Clowns playing chess, melting clocks, 1,000 ducks in a courtroom. The idea is to scramble fate with enough absurdity that your brain can't see a straight line ahead. Are they effective? Unclear. Are they dangerous? Definitely. At least to the fragile stability of a society built entirely on deterministic obedience. The government doesn't officially acknowledge them, but unofficially it tracks them. The Department of Temporal Harmony, yes, that's what they call it now, labels the blindfolded as forecast saboteurs. Why? Because knowing the future isn't just a curiosity anymore, it's infrastructure. Logistics companies, airlines, elections, even online dating algorithms run on forecast compliance. Everyone playing their part, willingly or not. A single individual refusing to follow their assigned timeline is like a stubborn domino that refuses to fall, threatening the whole cascade. One infamous case was the broken wedding of Berlin. A woman in Germany saw a vision of herself marrying a man named Lars. She met him weeks later, exactly as predicted. He was charming, statistically perfect, and everything her vision promised. But she refused, simply out of spite. Said she didn't like being bossed around by the cosmos. Lars ended up in therapy for a year. The wedding venue went bankrupt. 5 adjacent predictions in other people's timelines collapsed like soufflés under a foghorn. Ever since, governments have quietly begun punishing deviants from vision-consistent behavior. Not openly, of course, but jobs are denied, visas revoked, insurance premiums hiked, all based on your deviation index, a measure of how faithfully you're following your forecast. Blindfolded members tend to score high on the rebellion scale. Some are arrested under obscure public safety statutes. Others simply disappear into bureaucratic fog. They become quantum exiles, present but undefined. Still, they persist. One branch of the movement calls themselves Fate Dodgers. They adopt random behaviors each day to intentionally corrupt their timelines, walking backward, making decisions by rolling dice, speaking languages they don't know. Their belief is simple. Entropy is freedom. The more you break the pattern, the less grip the future has on you. But of course, even this has limits. Because even their rebellion was foreseen. And in the cruelest twist of all, some of them eventually see visions of themselves giving up, becoming normal, signing contracts, wearing suits, apologizing for their phase. Nothing kills a revolution faster than the knowledge that it fails. And that really is the heart of this whole existential farce. In a world where the future is visible but immutable, every movement, every rebellion, every cry of resistance is already part of the script. The rebel shouting "I refuse" is just delivering his line. The blindfolded know this, and yet they try anyway. Because sometimes the only dignity left is in the performance, not to change the ending, but to say the lines your own way. In next part, we'll explore how art, love, and meaning mutate in a world where no one can surprise anyone, including themselves. And yes, we'll ask the very awkward question: what happens when you know the exact date you'll fall out of love? Somewhere in downtown Tokyo, an artist named Hoshiko paints her final mural. It stretches across 5 city blocks and depicts a swirling tapestry of scenes pulled from the futures of 1,000 strangers: lovers separating on a rainy train platform, a child in a silver suit discovering bacteria on Europa, a man in Omaha choking on a hot dog in front of his in-laws. The mural is a forecast collage compiled through unsolicited visions donated by commuters, school kids, retired bureaucrats, anyone willing to share a peek into what they'd already seen but could never escape. Hoshiko herself knows how the mural ends. She saw it years ago: every brushstroke, every critique, every viral reaction at museum offer. She paints it not because she wants to, but because she must. She will not be the artist who defies her forecast. She tried once, left her studio, torched her canvases, fled to Mongolia to herd yaks. But a shepherd there had seen her mural in a dream, described it to her over fermented milk, and just like that, her escape was shattered by another's prophecy. So she returned. Because art in this world is no longer an act of creation. It's an act of confirmation. The painter doesn't imagine, she remembers. The composer doesn't invent symphonies, he translates them from future echoes. Even comedy has died a slow, unceremonious death. You can't be surprised by a punchline you saw coming in a dream 2 years ago. Entire industries now struggle to manufacture novelty. Hollywood, once a forge of fantasies, now licenses predictive consultants to help script films that will resonate with what audiences already expect to remember. Directors direct their own predictions. Critics pre-write reviews. Every film premiere feels like deja vu with better lighting. But the real tragedy isn't in the art, it's in the love. Because when everyone knows the date they fall for someone, and worse, the date they fall out, love becomes less a mystery and more a countdown. Dating apps no longer ask, what are you looking for? But instead, what is your forecasted exit date? Some relationships blossom in spite of the knowledge. 2 people might see they will divorce in 6 years, but they go in anyway, like tourists visiting a collapsing glacier. They save at the beginning precisely because they know the end. Others can't stomach it. If your vision shows heartbreak, betrayal, loneliness, why even bother? One man, a mathematician from Geneva, developed a romantic abstinence movement. He called it chrono-celibacy. His belief: if you never love, you never grieve. A philosophy both elegant and sterile, like most math. The irony? His forecast said he would meet his soulmate during a speaking engagement about chrono-celibacy, which he promptly canceled, meaning she never arrived. Whether that changed the future or fulfilled it remains a hot debate in the predictive philosophy subreddit. And then there's the story of Layla and Isaac. She saw him in a vision when she was 12. He didn't see her until 34. They met, fell in love, married, had kids, all as foreseen. But here's a twist. Layla also saw her death. Not Isaac's. Hers. Alone. Decades after he was gone. She told no one. Not even him. Every time he kissed her, she felt the weight of that solitude pressing forward. Every laugh, every argument, every touch was shadowed by the knowledge that one day she'd be without him. And still, she loved him. Because the human heart, even in a deterministic world, has this curious quirk. It beats in time, but it doesn't surrender to it. It knows the future and hurts anyway. It's not ignorance that makes love possible. It's courage. Up next, we'll descend deeper into society's slow collapse of spontaneity, where elections, revolutions, and even traffic jams are nothing more than confirmations of preordained chaos. Stay tuned for the part where people riot exactly on schedule. On a crisp September morning, the president of a small Baltic republic begins her day with an inbox full of protest schedules. Not guesses, not intelligence reports, just straight-up calendar invitations, each tagged with geolocation data, slogans, casualty projections, and peak chant volume times accurate to within decibel. She's not surprised. No one is anymore. The Forecast Network, a public blockchain of future visions, open source clairvoyance, has turned civil unrest into something you RSVP to. Activists no longer plan. They check. Is today the day we riot about fuel prices? Yes? Good. Umbrellas, water bottles, bandanas. Let's make destiny photogenic. And in this brave new world of crystal clarity, the very idea of resistance gets twisted. Revolution doesn't feel revolutionary when you already know the speech the new regime will give. You can't storm the palace when the guards open the door on cue. Even coups are pre-approved. A general once tried to stage one off schedule. His troops refused. That's not how it's supposed to happen. And it didn't. The whole thing fizzled. Not because of superior defenses, but because no one believed in a coup that wasn't predicted. Without belief, the future can't bloom. The irony is exquisite. Humanity finally unlocked the ultimate power, knowledge of tomorrow, and promptly used it to build a prison of obedience. A student in Sao Paulo drops out of school not because he's lazy, but because he already saw himself as a janitor. Why waste time chasing dreams when I already know where I mop? He tells his confused mother, who had once seen a vision of him in a lab coat. They fight over which future is real. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, a pair of teenage girls host a live-stream debate over a burning philosophical question. If everyone knows the exact date of the global food crisis and no one can prevent it, should we just start looting now or wait for the polite window of apocalypse? Comments pour in. Most users vote for wait. It's not looting if it's fated. Time, once fluid, now runs like a train schedule. And we, the passengers, sit with tickets in hand, staring at our phones, waiting for the conductor to announce what we already know. This determinism infects governance too. Politicians run campaigns not to win votes, but to act out predictions. One senator ran entirely on a platform of transparency. I've seen my own scandal. I leak in 2032. Let's get ahead of it. He won in a landslide. And sure enough, in 2032, right on cue, the scandal leaked. Public trust surged. At least he's consistent, said the polls. At least he fulfills prophecy. The judiciary system adapts too. Courts hear testimonies not about what happened, but about what will happen, and whether that future crime deserves pre-punishment. One judge famously sentenced a man to 5 years for a robbery he would commit in 2041. The man responded with gratitude. Now I can skip the guilt and just enjoy the cash, he said. He did. Meanwhile, the economy runs on precognition derivatives. Banks don't lend based on credit scores. They lend based on confirmed visions of repayment. Stock markets crash before disasters, then stabilize within minutes. There hasn't been a surprise recession in 20 years. There also hasn't been a surprise recovery. Everyone knows how bad things will get, and exactly when they stop getting worse. Innovation is slow to a crawl. Why invent when the patterns are already visible in some inventors' forecasts? Every tech entrepreneur now spends half their time trying to dream up loopholes the future forgot to leak. The rest just pivot to prophecy mining, scouring dreams for commercial blueprints. The best startups are led by sleepwalkers. And yet, the most haunting impact of all isn't economic or political or even philosophical. It's emotional. We've lost the thrill of the unknown. Birthday surprises don't land anymore. Marriage proposals are performances. And death, once the final mystery, now comes with a countdown. A man in Iceland live streams his own final week. Each day, millions tune in to watch him fulfill his remaining visions. Tuesday, the coffee spill. Wednesday, the missed bus. Thursday, the seagull incident. When Friday comes, he puts on a tuxedo, smiles into camera, and waits. He dies exactly on schedule. The world mourns, then moves on, because we all saw this coming. Next, we'll unravel how religion, mysticism, and even gambling survive or adapt in a world where the divine dice have already been rolled. Stay tuned as prophets become customer service agents and Vegas turns into a nostalgia museum. Somewhere outside Reno, the last remaining casino has rebranded itself as a historical probability exhibit. It looks like a casino, sounds like one too. Slot machines still chirp, dice still tumble, blackjack tables still beckon, but there's no real gambling going on. Not in the old sense. Every player knows their outcome before they sit down. A scrolling display above the roulette wheel announces future winners in advance, along with the time and exact spin they will cheer. The house doesn't take bets, it curates experiences. Guests pay to reenact past unpredictability. Come lose like it's 1995, screams the neon slogan. And people come, because in this vision-bound society, randomness has become exotic. The unknown is a luxury product, preserved in small, regulated doses like endangered spices or vinyl records. But it's not just casinos that suffer. Religion, long built on faith, finds itself in existential crisis. Clergy now compete not with atheists, but with forecasters. Why pray when you can preview? Churches once offered hope and meaning in an uncertain world. Now they must sell transcendence in a world where everyone knows whether their kidney transplant will take. Some denominations adapt. A popular sect in Brazil merges scripture with forecast data, rebranding salvation as timeline optimization. Their services resemble software updates. Confession booths now come with spreadsheets. A charismatic preacher in Lagos holds services where congregants chant not hymns, but conditional statements. If I avoid this bus route, my fate might shift. If I say no to this marriage proposal, the tumor disappears. It's religion, but with error logs. Others double down on divine paradox. A new theological movement emerges, quantum Calvinism. It teaches that yes, the future is visible, but only the act of seeing it makes it inevitable. The Prophecies, the prison, preaches their robed founder, who claims to have never checked his own future once. His followers wear blindfolds during worship. In a world obsessed with certainty, they choose reverent ignorance. Meanwhile, mystics and astrologers scramble to remain relevant. Horoscopes now compete with certified forecast reports. No one wants you may meet someone tall this week when they've already seen their future spouse's dental records. Tarot readers pivot to emotional interpretation specialists. A few become wildly successful, not because they predict the future better, but because they provide meaning in a future people already know. Sure, you die in a subway explosion, one psychic tells a trembling man in Tokyo, but let's talk about what that death means. It works. Because even when the facts of fate are fixed, their emotional interpretation remains malleable. That becomes the new battleground, not what will happen, but how to feel about it. A global industry of narrative therapists springs up, helping people rewrite the context of their future. A woman destined to be divorced in 2040 doesn't try to stop it. Instead, she reframes it as a heroic act of liberation. A miner with a confirmed cave-in death leans into martyrdom, filming messages for future labor movements. In this way, free will survives, not in actions, but in framing. Humanity finds wiggle room in tone, posture, myth. Even comedians adapt. Late-night shows now feature Future Fail Fridays, where guests confess their upcoming embarrassments. The punchlines have already happened, but they still get laughs. Humor, it turns out, doesn't need mystery, just timing. But not everyone laughs. In rural Scotland, a man tears out all electronics from his home and lives entirely analog, hoping that without connectivity, his life might escape the global vision net. He becomes a folk hero. Others follow. They call themselves foggers, people who intentionally obscure their timelines by removing themselves from all visual systems. The movement grows, not out of fear, but nostalgia. They don't want to change the future. They just want the present to surprise them again. Vision tech corporations respond by offering blurred futures as a premium feature. For an extra fee, users can hide 5 minutes, a day, a month from themselves, the time equivalent of incognito mode. Privacy has evolved. It's not about data anymore. It's about unpredictability. Coming up next, we'll dive into what this deterministic world means for love, parenting, and the most human urge of all.
Because when every heartbreak is known in advance, why do we still swipe right?
On a quiet park bench in Berlin, a woman swipes right on an app she already knows will lead to a short but meaningful relationship ending in mild heartbreak and a dog custody dispute. She swipes anyway. Not because she's in denial. The forecast told her everything, down to the final text message, but because there's still something worth living through in the space between beginning and end. Love in this deterministic world has not died. It has adapted. Dating apps no longer sell the possibility of surprise. Instead, they optimize experiences. Want a 6-week whirlwind romance that ends at a coastal cafe? There's a match for that. Want a companion who will support your startup, raise 2 kids, then amicably part ways after a revelation in Bhutan? There's a subscription package for that too. Algorithms don't just match compatibility, they forecast the emotional arc. One company even offers curated tragedy experiences for users who desire the intensity of doomed love with none of the psychological ambiguity. Why? Because even in a world of known outcomes, people still crave the depth of emotion. Predictability doesn't dull the need for connection. If anything, it makes every moment more precious. Parents now raise children with full knowledge of how their kids' lives will unfold. The moment a child is born, parents receive a full timeline. Schooling outcomes, career paths, relationship milestones, causes of death. It's all there. Some parents embrace this. "We're just here to shepherd her through her track," says one mother of a future Olympic swimmer turned biotech whistleblower. She decorates her nursery with medals and subpoenas. Others rebel. One father tries to raise his son off script, deliberately creating conditions to alter the projected timeline. He relocates, rewrites his identity, denies his son any exposure to forecast. The result? After years of struggle, his son ends up right where the vision said he would, in the same job, with the same spouse, but now with an added resentment for being denied clarity. The forecast had become self-fulfilling, not because it forced choices, but because it captured the underlying psychological inevitabilities. This becomes the greatest philosophical revelation of the age, that even without the vision, most people would still end up roughly where they do. The forecasts don't shape the path. They illuminate the rails we've always been riding. But that doesn't stop people from trying. A counterculture movement called the Shifters emerges. They believe that if they can act irrationally enough, they can break free from the timeline. Shifters engage in bizarre behaviors, sudden career changes, impulsive marriages, random acts of disruption, all in the name of confusing the deterministic map. Yet even their chaos is often predicted. The vision companies simply adjust for deviation probability curves. One popular meme from the era shows a shifter screaming, "I am free," while running into exactly the same traffic jam he was destined to hit. But not all is cynical. Artists begin to reclaim agency by embracing known futures as creative material. Musicians write symphonies about their own deaths, releasing them years in advance. Novelists publish autobiographies before living them. A dancer in soul choreographs her entire romantic life into a performance piece, recreating each future date on stage before they happen. It becomes a global sensation. Children attend, knowing they are watching not fiction, but fate. Meanwhile, economists attempt to inject risk back into financial systems by creating artificial uncertainty tokens, essentially blind boxes for capital. Investors put money into uncertainty pools where the outcome is randomly selected from a set of known futures, much like lottery systems. These new markets thrive, not because people love losing, but because they crave not knowing. The hunger for suspense becomes primal. Even animals are affected. In one strange experiment, researchers show that when dogs are exposed to predictive signals about when they will be fed, they grow lethargic, less responsive. But when timing is randomized again, the dogs become livelier, more engaged. Uncertainty, it turns out, is stimulating across species. And this leads to the deepest societal revelation yet. Perhaps it's not knowledge that makes life rich, but the tension of anticipation. If every birthday, every heartbreak, every promotion and failure is visible before it arrives, then the only mystery left, the only thing that cannot be predicted, is how we feel when we get there. Next, we'll plunge into the final paradox of this future-bound civilization. If change is impossible and futures are fixed, then what drives revolutions, innovations, and the eternal human urge to rebel? Or is the act of rebelling itself already part of the script? In the shadow of inevitability, revolution persists, not as a force that bends the timeline, but as a ritual of self-expression against it. Around the world, groups rise not to change the future, but to assert that even foreknown rebellion is meaningful. The irony is thick. Anti-prediction protests are scheduled weeks in advance, because participants know precisely when their rage will crest. One leader in Buenos Aires gives a televised speech denouncing the deterministic tyranny of foresight, fully aware that within 12 minutes he'll be tackled by police in a moment that goes viral. And he is. The clip is memed, monetized, and archived before he even finishes his sentence. He later sells exclusive commentary rights to a podcast that reviews historic events as they happen. This is not nihilism. This is structure repurposed. In this strange society, rebellion does not break the system. It sustains it. Entire subcultures form around the performance of resistance. There are choreographed strikes, museum exhibits on future riots, even romantic partner matching services that pair revolutionaries by synchronized timeline arcs. It becomes fashionable to be a radical, even when one's radical acts have been budgeted for in national spending forecasts. Innovation, too, adapts. Startups no longer promise disruption. They offer pre-verified novelty experiences, products that are guaranteed to feel fresh, even if they're already mapped. A company in Nairobi sells pre-fated inventions. They don't invent new things. They simply release ideas whose existence was always inevitable. Customers feel both cheated and inspired. It's all very meta. Creativity becomes paradoxical. Writers publish books they know will be banned. Directors make films that will flop and later become cult classics, the sequence already known. A particularly avant-garde painter in Vancouver begins signing canvases before painting them, shipping them to buyers with instructions on what emotions they'll experience when they finally hang the piece in 5 years. And it works, because even if surprise is dead, timing still breathes. This fuels a resurgence in philosophical thought. Determinism is no longer a fringe concern of physicists and stone undergrads. It is the central question of daily life. Schools teach future ethics, debating whether it's moral to pursue a path you know leads to personal joy but communal harm. Do you still take the job offer in Shanghai if it leads to your best friend's divorce in London? People consult ethicists before dating. Some deny themselves love entirely to protect distant strangers from projected emotional fallout. Religious movements splinter. Some embrace the foreseen as divine design. God, after all, might be the original timeline. Others splinter further, preaching the gospel of ignorance, urging followers to destroy their visions and live in blindness, even if they secretly remember every detail. The most fervent burn their vision implants, lobotomize memory, or relocate to remote communes with no predictive access. Ironically, these acts of deliberate forgetting were, of course, also predicted. Governments struggle to govern in this environment. Election results are known years in advance. Voter turnout drops because everyone already knows who wins, what laws pass, which scandals erupt. Democracy doesn't die, it calcifies. Politicians still campaign, but mostly for theater. Some citizens attend rallies simply to relive the feeling of hope, even when they know it's futile. One retired senator puts it best, "We used to say power corrupts. Now it merely loops." And yet, life continues. People still marry, despite knowing the exact hour of their divorce. They still write songs about heartbreaks that haven't happened yet. Parents still tell bedtime stories, even if the child already knows the ending. The meaning of human existence shifts. It is no longer about steering the future. It is about inhabiting it, about becoming artisans of inevitability, about savoring the flavor of the path, even if the recipe is fixed. The theater of life no longer runs on improvisation. It runs on exquisite execution. Well, now we'll confront the final riddle. If we know everything that will happen, if we are actors performing roles written beyond us, then what, if anything, makes us truly alive? The curtains never close, yet the applause always arrives. That is the condition of a world fated to know its every line, cue, and final breath. And now we've come to the ultimate contradiction, the enigma that haunts philosophers, lovers, and janitors alike. If every moment of your life has already been scripted by forces beyond your control, why get out of bed in the morning? Why eat the salad you despise? Why call your mother when you already know she'll guilt trip you, cry a little, and then forgive you over pie? The answer, dear listener, is not logical. It is not strategic. It is profoundly human. You rise because that moment, however inevitable, is yours. Not in ownership, but in occupation. Like a tenant in a cosmic lease, you inhabit the hour of your breath, your heartbeat, your sweat. And even if the next 10 years are preordained, no one can take away how deeply you feel them. This is the quiet rebellion, not against the timeline, but inside it. Consider a man who knows the exact day his partner will leave him. He still brings her coffee every morning, kisses her cheek, tells her about the birds nesting on the balcony. He doesn't do it to prevent the breakup. He does it because those gestures are real, even if their doom is scheduled. The agony will still be raw, the comfort still warm, the memories still sacred. Or a child born knowing she'll become a war journalist, die in a border skirmish at 34, and have 3 dogs before then. She still plays with Legos, dreams of dinosaurs, and writes stories in crayon. Her life is not less beautiful because it is mapped. If anything, she learns to treasure each minute with the precision of someone counting stars before dawn. And this is what defines the post-prediction era, a return to the immediate. Theater thrives. Music returns to improvisation not because it alters fate, but because it saturates the air with defiant joy. People don't dance to escape the future. They dance to embrace it so tightly that even destiny blushes. Art becomes a declaration that experience matters, even if its outcomes are cast in stone. And slowly, a strange form of freedom reemerges. Not freedom of choice, but freedom of presence. You don't pick your ending, but you do get to decide how loud you laugh in the middle. This reframing spreads like a spiritual awakening. Knowing is not controlling becomes a mantra. Meditation apps explode in popularity. Some teach people to embrace future sorrow as an ally, not an enemy. Therapists shift from helping people change their fate to helping them befriend it. There are still cynics, of course. Always have been, always will be, and yes, they're already scheduled. They argue that a known future kills ambition, suppresses dreams, makes rebellion a cartoon. But they miss the point. Ambition persists, not to alter the outcome, but to enrich the journey. A woman still trains for the Olympics, even if she knows she'll finish fourth. A boy still climbs Everest, aware his summit photo will be lost in a luggage mishap. A playwright pens a tragedy, already aware it will be critically panned for a decade, then rediscovered as genius. They all continue. Because the shape of their futures does not diminish the depth of their now. And in the end, the true question becomes, if you could see the future and not change it, could you still love it? Could you still live it? Could you honor it not as a prison, but as a pre-written poem, one in which you are both verse and voice? This is the world we've imagined today. A future where prophecy is fact and agency is reframed, not as the power to bend a river, but as the grace to swim in it. Thank you for joining us on this thought experiment, this dive into the deepest paradox of fate and freedom. You've been listening to What If Horizons, where imagination meets inevitability. If you enjoyed this journey through predestination and purpose, subscribe, leave a review, and tell us what you would do, knowing full well you already will. Until next time, keep wondering, even if the answers are already written.